Welcome to Yeukai Business Show, UK's premier business show where we feature business thought leaders, high achievers, and industry experts. Today's episode is brought to you by World Outsourcing Solutions Limited, a company that specializes in helping executive business owners with virtual assistant services and business growth systems. Here's your host, Yeukai Kechidori.
Hey, Bill, it's Yeukai again, and thanks again for joining us here. You know what, Bill? For those who are joining us for the first time, they don't know who Bill is. Let me just explain and qualify that. Bill is my ideal client who has been in business for the last, perhaps, 56. I say 56 years old. Bill doesn't like that. He was a dear friend of mine who is typically an ideal client of mine who wants to learn, who wants to implement what he's learning. And you are listening here today because you're among those people that I truly believe are changing the world. So I want to say welcome, and thank you for joining us here. And with me is a good friend, Dennis, joining us for the first time here on podcast to talk about a subject which I truly believe is critical to your success, and it is your relationship with money. Here's a key thing that I know, ladies and gentlemen, about money. If you don't get it right, it has the potential of giving you enormous headache. In fact, it leaves you with sleepless nights. But if you get it right, among other things, you might have a comfortable life. So to help us understand that concept of money relationship is Dennis Harhalakis. I think, Dennis, you have to help me pronounce yourself.
Of course, Yeukai. It's Dennis Harhalakis, and it's a pleasure to be with you today, Yeukai. Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
Amazing. Dennis, you know what? I was looking forward to having this conversation specifically today, simply because several people have been asking questions about money, about how can they achieve more with what they already have. Some of them already have got a lot of money, but others are just starting out on this journey. And that's where you come in, Dennis, helping people finding out, it is not the amount of money you have. It's the quality of a relationship you have with money that decides what's going to happen next. So, Dennis, we are excited to have you. How are you, man?
I'm very well indeed. I'm excited too. And it's actually, I think it's Money Talk Week as well, or something as well in November. It's the big week for understanding your relationship with money. And we're going to talk about that because it's really interesting. I mean, when you started, you talk about understanding money, but who shows you this stuff? Who sits down to you, in your personal finances and sits down and says, here are a few things you need to really know, and if you get these right, and then that's before we talk about business finances. Yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting space.
Absolutely. We are glad you're back in the UK so that you can help business owners here in the UK. And I know there will be some people listening across the pond there, but the majority of our listeners are right here in the United Kingdom. So we're excited about that. So Dennis, to get us started here, man, we would love for you to share a bit about your journey, how you ended up being a money relationship coach.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started in finance. I started working in 1986, and I worked in the city of London, and then I spent a lot of time in Singapore, and I worked primarily in private banking and in wealth management. Spent a lot of time talking to a lot of people about money, about how to invest money, how to manage money. And then in about 2014, I wanted to move back to the UK with my family, and we came back, and I thought, well, I've got all this experience. I should be able to get a job in the UK really easily. And it just didn't quite work out like that. So I wanted to use everything that I'd learned in those 30 years. And I started looking at financial literacy because I thought, well, that's a great place to start. Financial literacy for children, financial literacy for adults, really important. And I was listening to a podcast, and the person on the podcast was talking about money coaching. They just become a money coach. And what they said struck me with this amazing realization, which was that everything about our relationship with money is emotional. And I realized that I knew a lot about money, but I knew nothing about money in myself. I'd spent my whole life working around people with money. Some were good, some were bad. I was reasonable with money, but nobody had ever really helped me understand my relationship with money and my money anxiety. And so I started this journey to becoming a money coach. And now I help people. I am on my own journey, and I help people understand manage the money in their lives, to help them understand how to make better decisions, how to reduce anxiety and negative emotions, and how to communicate in a healthy manner, in healthy ways around money, because it's so important that we get this right. It's at the center of our lives, but no one ever shows us how to understand it or manage it.
It is one of those crazy things that you think this is a subject that everybody, even in school, this will be the number one subject to look at. But nobody takes time to show you exactly how you do it, because there are laws that governs the movement of money, be it in the marketplace, be it in your personal business, personal life, or even in your business for that matter. If you get it right, if you know how to do it, you will succeed where others seemingly to be finding it difficult. One of the things I like about you, Dennis, as I was going through some of the paperwork we received in preparation for this, is you were already successful. You had some couple of investment, you had all going for you, and things were going so well, but you still discover that there were certain areas that you could do better if you improve your relationship with money. Would you share a little bit about that with our audience now?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, at the personal level, I had essentially managed my finances by always spending less than I earned. And so in a sense, that was a way of essentially managing financial anxiety. My father was born in 1919. He lived through some fairly uncertain periods of very, very dangerous and uncertain periods of the world and his own life. He came to the UK in the 1950s. And very much his anxiety around money, his anxiety around having everything taken away from him, possibly, transferred into me. And so I was always worried. And then I got to a period in my life where I wasn't earning any money. I was living off savings. I was living off investments. And what that ended up was being really, really challenging for me. Really, really challenging, because essentially what happens if you have money anxiety, for example, is that you try and control what you have, and you get trapped by fear. You get trapped in a very, very small mindset, when in fact what you need is a growth mindset. One of the things that people get are not always very clear on is, do you have a spending problem or do you have an income problem?
Right.
People who spend too much money, they generally have a spending problem. But at the same time, if you really want to build a business, and if you want to build a life, you need to have you need to build income, right? So you need to consider how to grow your income, how to grow your business, how to grow yourself. And you can't do that if you're trapped by fear, if you're trapped in and so one of the things that came out of my work with clients was that their personal issues around money, fear of finances, fear of the bank manager, fear or shame or guilt around how they ran their own lives, was influencing how they ran their businesses, and it just bled directly into it.
Absolutely, absolutely. This reminds me of T. Harv Eker's statement that how you do anything is how you do everything, literally. If you can master your personal finances, the chances are you will be able to master your corporate or your business finances, because there are certain laws that governs how you do those things. Because once you discover them and you follow them, you apply them, you will see tremendous success. It doesn't matter which part of the world you live in or in what state of the economy is, you will find. In fact, let me ask you a question if you're listening. Has it ever occurred to you that some people seem to thrive regardless of where they live, regardless of the economy or whatever is happening around them? They just seem to know what to do. If you look closely, you'll find that it is because they have a healthy relationship with money. So we want to go deeper now to talk about what does a healthy relationship with money look like, because I understand Dennis has got an interesting way of looking at money. In fact, earlier on he was talking about self, money and self itself. Dennis, would you talk about this for a moment?
Yeah, certainly. So my relationship with money, your relationship with money, anyone's relationship with money is made up of three parts: how I feel about myself, how I feel about money, and how I feel about money and myself. And so I'm going to tease these out a little bit, and then we're going to see how they apply in the business world. Now, people who are good with their finances, they feel good about themselves. I am competent, I have confidence in my knowledge and decision-making processes. I take ownership of my outcomes. My self-worth does not depend on my net worth or my possessions, right? So I feel good about myself. I feel good about money. So that means that money is a tool to achieve well-being. It's not the work of the devil, the root of all evil, or something we don't talk about. It's not this unknown or confusing thing that I don't understand. And if I feel good about money in myself, what that means is that money, or thinking about money, doesn't make me feel anxious or ashamed or guilty. So I'm comfortable engaging with the financial system. And I am the kind of person at an identity level that you were referring to earlier. I am the kind of person who manages their finances well. So there's 3 parts to it. And the part that, if you look at all these self-help books, 10 steps to this and 7 ways to that, rather, they always forget that our relationship with anything is based on how we feel about ourselves.
Amazing.
My relationship with food is how I feel about myself, how I feel about food, how I feel food about myself. My relationship with work, how do I feel about myself? How do I feel about work? How do I feel about work myself? Or personal relationships, or relationships with exercise, or anything. It starts with, how do I feel about myself?
Indeed.
Am I confident?
Before we move on there, I want to share my personal story, because this is so close to my heart. Because when I started, I'll give you a brief example. I was born in Zimbabwe. Many of you know that, not in a very wealthy family. So my approach to money was like, oh, there's not enough of it. In fact, that was the belief of already there. But now my belief is there's more than enough for everybody. There's enough for everybody to go around. It wasn't until I had a coach who challenged that belief consistently over and over and over that it became apparent to me that the scarcity mindset was a result of how I was brought up, the environment I found myself in. And after a close look at that, I began and changed it. I began to open myself to the possibility of having more. And surprise, surprise, more started coming my way. So if you are listening to this, and you have the scarcity mindset, I want to perhaps challenge you, maybe in a nice way. Is your belief based on facts, or is just what has been handed over to you by a previous generation? Be open and be clear about that. In fact, when you know the real facts, that there is way more money today than has ever been in the world, you begin to open yourself to the possibility of having some more. Coming back to you, Dennis, here, you talked about self. Would you help us more a little bit on that?
Yes. So how I feel about myself, as in the part, as in one of the 3 parts of our relationship with money, is what messages did I get about myself growing up? So we talk about growth mindset. We talk about emerging from an inadequacy, insecurity, scarcity mindset. Do I deserve more? So, for example, if I'm a coach, or I am someone in services, and I've got my own business, how do I ask for money?
Right.
What do I deserve? What is my self-worth? And so when we look at this, space, particularly if you come from the corporate world, and you've negotiated a salary once, and then it gets paid every month. But if you're a coach, or if you're a website designer, or whoever you are, you have to ask for money every single time someone says, what are you going to charge? What are your fees? And this is the point at which you're asking yourself, what am I worth? Who am I? How much can I ask for? Is it rude to ask for money? All of those beliefs, all of those stories that you got told about yourself and about money growing up, then become part of that conversation each time a client says to you, well, how much do you charge? What does it cost? And that's why how you feel about yourself and how you feel about money in yourself become really important for small business owners, because you're going to have to face up to this question of, what do I charge? How do I ask for money? So when you ask for money, you're instantly transported back to childhood. When you ask your parents for money, can I have money for this? Can I have money for that? Can I, and how does that feel? How does that make you feel? I mean, you can answer that. You shared already, and I can imagine that in your history, in your background, there wasn't a lot of money to go around. So asking for money was something that generally ended up in, no, you can't. There isn't enough. There isn't enough. There isn't, and when you grow up with there isn't enough, it turns into there's never enough.
Absolutely, and especially more so when you look around and see other people struggling as if there is not enough. It heighten your sense of not having enough. So one of the things I had to do intentionally, thanks to coaches and the environment I found myself in, is to remove myself from an environment that continuously reinforced scarcity and put myself in an environment where there was like, oh, if others can do this, perhaps I can do that. I'll give you a classical example. I do this even to this very day. If I don't have enough money, I honestly and certainly have enough money to go and have a meal in a really, really nice place. Because when I'm in that place, I begin to attract beautiful. This is a beautiful place. Somebody paid for it. I too can do this. In fact, while I'm in that, I want to point out that you truly deserve money. If you're listening to this and you're considering how to improve this, your starting point is having this belief that you too deserve to be paid or to be compensated accordingly, and even higher than the rest of your pals in your local network, because of who you are, not because of anything else, but just because of who you are. Dennis, I'll hand over back to you.
Yes. So as you touched on before, you need to learn, you need to accept it, you need to give yourself permission, you need to ask. And one of the things that's kind of where people struggle with. So if your personal relationship with money is not healthy, or it's not happy, it's not where it should be, then asking for money is going to be difficult.
Absolutely.
And chasing people for money is going to be difficult. Sometimes, and this happens to people, they say, right, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to practice. And when the person asks, I'm going to tell them, this is my number. I'm going to say, this is, I charge £500. This is what I charge. I'm going to practice. And then you're talking to the client, and the client says, how much do you charge? And then you go, £300. So you immediately discount yourself, or you go, well, it's £500, but I'm going to give you a discount this time, and I'm going to make sure it's really easy for you. And you start apologizing for what you're charging because you're not comfortable around your own self-worth. So you have to believe in your self-worth. And this isn't based on kind of some sort of, ridiculous number that you're putting out there. If you've got a business, if you've trained, if you've studied, if you have value, if you have a product, ask for the price, believe in yourself. And it's not easy to do. I'm not saying that it's easy to do, but what I'm saying is that the relationship with money that you have, which is how you feel about yourself and how you feel about money and yourself, is at the root of all of these issues around asking for money, charging for money, following up for money, not taking on difficult clients, not taking on clients that want to beat you down. You say, oh, it's £500, and they say, can you do it for 300? Now, if you do it for 300, what they're telling you is that they don't value your time. And if you accept the £300, then you're telling them, neither do I. And it's really important to understand where the roots of that come from, which is the stories that you have about yourself that you grew up in childhood, or possibly about yourself and money that you grew up in childhood. And they're only stories. You can change all of those stories, but they influence you, and that you find yourself, it's very hard to attract something that deep down you're not comfortable with. Absolutely. So if you're not comfortable with money, you're not comfortable asking for money, it's going to be really hard to attract money.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying you have to be greedy, far from it. I'm saying that we carry around us, we have a subconscious inheritance of beliefs that undermine us, that take us away from the person we want to be. They're making the future more difficult, not easier. And so working through that, as you've done with yourself, is really powerful and transformational, because they are beliefs, but they are at the same time, they're stories. You change your stories, and you change how you show up, and that's going to directly affect the business finances, or your small business, or whatever. And it's not just about being a coach. So, for example, if you have one of my clients, had personal issues with money, which is why he came to see me. He had some shame and guilt around his debt, never being able to clear his debt, and he just had a fear of engagement with the financial system. But he also had this great little company that he was running. Unfortunately, because he was constricted around his personal issues, he didn't engage with the finances of his business to the extent that he needed to.
Yeah.
He had a CFO that lost money, which made him feel even worse. And he was just scared to get involved in the day-to-day running of his business at the finances level.
Yeah.
After we worked together, it changed completely. I'm really pleased to say that for him, we managed to do this work before lockdown, because he was in the hospitality business, and it allowed him to pivot his business and survive the hospitality business, but only survive the recent lockdown, but only because he was no longer scared of engaging with his personal finances, and he was therefore no longer scared of engaging with his business finances.
I love this. I absolutely love this. Dennis, you touched on an important subject there, that the stories you tell yourselves decide truly what you experience, what you relive or continue to live. You know, if you're listening to this, I want you to know, number one, you deserve to be wealthy. You deserve to get more. You deserve to be paid what you're worth, what you think is rightfully yours. You don't listen to what other people say. Start by telling yourself that you truly deserve. Here's what I did for myself. I remember listening to Bob Proctor. Many of you have had me quote Uncle Bob Proctor. He said, write down, a particular goal that you truly deserve, that you know that, is in line with what you're worth, and keep looking at it every single day, or even write it in your journal. Many of you know that I believe in journals. Write it down consistently, drip, 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 until you transform your belief. Question what you know already about money, about your identity, about what your self-worth. And the more you do that, the easier it becomes for you to change your identity. Secondly, put yourself in the right environment where others, where you associate with others who believe the same thing as you do. Like, there's more than enough for everybody. There's enough to go around. You are a living being providing the right service, and you are to compensate accordingly. Have those beliefs, working on those beliefs literally every single day. Time will come when you will be very clear, and you will have a great relationship with money. By the way, money is not evil at all. There is this saying that it is the root of all evil. Yes, there is that statement, but truly, money is a tool. Dennis says, you alluded to it already, that amplifies who you are. If you're a great person, it's going to amplify that. If you're a terrible person, it's going to amplify that. So you choose, and you're going to be amazed at that. Dennis, we want to focus very briefly, if we can, before we finish, we run out of time here. Many people have tried to improve their relationship with money. Men wants to improve their relationship with money. In your experience of helping many business owners, what would you say is either the number one or the top 10 strategies they can use or implement today that can get them on the right path to improve their relationship with money?
So if you want to understand your relationship with money, I've tried to sum it up in terms of the three parts to it. And that's basically looking at understanding how your relationship with money works. It is based on how you feel about yourself. It is based on what you believe about money, and it is based on what you believe about money and yourself. So let's look at those beliefs and say, are they working for me?
Oh, yes.
Are they taking me towards the person I want to be, or are they taking me away from the person I want to be? And then you can start to look at, where did they come from? Are they true? Are they real? They're not. They'll be inherited from somewhere, and they're likely to be blocking you. So this is a process that's quite hard to do on your own. So the way to go forward is, you can do it on your own, but is to find someone who can give you and create a safe space for you to explore these things. Now, the fear is real. I understand that. The guilt is real. The shame is real. All those things are real, but you don't choose to be that person. And so you need a safe space and someone to explore it with. And that's why you need a coach. And I'm slightly biased in that, as I am a coach, but anything you want to get better at, you need someone who can guide you, someone who can make you feel safe while you're exploring and challenging yourself around difficult areas and moving forward. So
Absolutely.
when you start to look at that, you'll begin to see the links between your beliefs and what's driving your business decisions. So, for example, if you believe that, as you say, money is the root of all evil, or in fact, the real word, it's the love of money is the root of all evil. But if you grew up in an environment where people didn't talk about money and they said, "Oh no, you don't talk about money," it's going to be really hard. So you need to find somewhere or a group or a business network to explore that and to support you in this area. And then if you're looking about fears are very real to people, but in a sense, they're still stories we tell ourselves. So ask yourself 3 questions. What's the worst that can happen? How likely is that to happen? What are some other alternatives? And what can I do to drive those alternatives? So if you're, if you're putting up with nightmare clients because you have low self-esteem, then look at that. Then try and recognize the driver around that. If you're putting up with nightmare clients because you have anxiety about losing clients and losing money, ask yourself the 3 questions. What's the worst that can happen? And what are some other possibilities? And I think the main thing here, and the hardest thing for all of us to do, is to understand what discomfort is telling you. It's telling you that there's something you need to fix. If your leg hurts or your arm hurts or whatever, it's telling you I need looking after, I need fixing. Maybe I should go to see a doctor, or I should stop running, or whatever it is. We understand what feedback is from our physical bodies. Emotions like fear, shame, guilt, they're also feedback, and they're telling us where we're not free, where we're not whole, and we need to look at that. And naturally, we avoid things that make us feel bad. We avoid things that make us feel bad about ourselves. But the key to moving forward and changing this is to look at it and go, okay, I understand what you're doing, I understand why it's coming, and I need to engage with it, not hide from it. Because you can't change it if you hide from it. And I know it's hard, and it's the work I do, and it's part of my personal journey. And I know we're hardwired to avoid discomfort and any kind of pain, but you can't change until you face it. And the best way to do that is to be with someone who can make you feel safe while you're doing that.
Absolutely. You know what? I agree with you 100%. Oftentimes, you can see, the frame for being in a picture. There's that one sentence that I had from Les Brown that helped me, that sometimes you need somebody who can see your blind spot, and they can point out to you and say, hey, you know what? That belief you have had it for several years. Maybe it served you at a certain period, but now you're in a different environment. It doesn't serve you anymore. It's actually holding you back. So you want to be among people who do this. Get a coach. Look, I'm a firm believer in a coach. If you're listening to this, you want to find somebody else. Again, Dennis, you touched on it. If you've got a feedback, if your hand hurts, you don't fix it yourself. Well, sometimes you do, but if it is really hurting, you go find somebody who can help you to do that. It's crazy to me, that you don't have enough money in the bank and you still carry on doing the same thing. It's like, okay, you can see clearly that something's not working out. You might as well do that, because what's in your bank is a reflection of where your belief is at that point. It may not be permanent, but right now it's demonstrating where you are at. What level are you playing at? Are you giving your gifts? Because you have gifts, you have abilities, you've got experiences that can be compensated accordingly. But if you don't work on your beliefs, you will continue experiencing the same result that you've been getting all along, which perhaps are not pleasant to you. So what are we saying here? You may be asking, get somebody else to help you. Work on your relationship with money. Money is a good thing. It's a good tool to amplify what you already do. And, while we're at it, Dennis, where can they find you should they want to work with you? Because we can talk about these and not give people where to go to. That'll be crazy.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Well, so please come and look up my website. It's www.cambridgemoneycoaching.uk. So Cambridge Money Coaching, I'm based in Cambridge. CambridgeMoneyCoaching.uk is where I'm at. So Cambridge Money Coaching, one word, CambridgeMoneyCoaching.uk.
Amen.
Come and find me. And yeah, reach out. Let's have a chat. And hopefully I can help you move forward. So it's yeah, you're absolutely right about those self beliefs. And we come out of scarcity, insecurity, inadequacy spaces. All of us come out of childhood with some messages about you're not good enough. Why don't you understand this? What's wrong with you? Why did you do this? What's wrong with you? How could you say that? What's wrong with you? And sometimes we internalize that. In fact, we internalize that. So when we bump into things that we struggle with and challenge us, we sometimes those old scripts about what's wrong with you block us from going forward. And my message is there's nothing wrong with you. You are all good enough. You are all enough. What's blocking you are some old beliefs and scripts that you have from your childhood. And we need to clear those out. And we need to bring a growth mindset and back to everybody so they can be the best person they can.
I agree with you 100%. Look, money makes the world go around. Without money, you wouldn't be listening to this conversation. Without money, you wouldn't have gone to a particular education institute that you went to. Everything depends on money. Even in the most rural parts of the world, they need some form of money. The world is built on that system. Wouldn't be now the best time for you to learn how to have a great relationship with money and do it the best way possible and get the benefits of that? In fact, it's really not about money. It is about you developing into the best version of you to become the very best that you possibly can be. Here's what I've discovered when I started this journey of studying about money. You truly cannot be all you are meant to be, flourish in your gifts, in your attributes, in your contribution to the world, unless you have money. Now, some people question that. That's okay. But here's the reality. You need to sharpen the skills that you already have. And to do that, you need money. So you might as well learn how this whole thing of money operates so that you can become best and be influential in a positive way. I know you'll listen to this because, like me, we are kindred in spirit. You want to be a force for good in the world. And without money, that's just a pipe dream. But with money, you can achieve more. You can give to charities. You can stop human trafficking. You can liberate people in poverty. You can do so much. Okay, that's other people. But internally, you can do and grow and become more. So what I want to encourage you as we wrap up this conversation and this audio is, if you're already struggling about money, you owe it to yourself. You owe it to the previous generation who worked very hard to generate ideas that have enabled you to listen to this. You owe it to the future generation. What are you going to do with your own gifts? Are you going to use the tool that is available to all of us, which is money? The starting place is get clear on where you are on your beliefs and work on them on a daily basis. Engage a coach, engage somebody who's done it or somebody who is doing it so that you can fast forward your journey to becoming who you truly want to be. I can keep on going about that because I'm passionate about this subject. But Dennis, I want to say thank you for joining us here today, and we still would love to have you back and to explore more around this topic, in future when you've got a moment.
Absolutely, I've really enjoyed our conversation today, and I've just got one small thing because we inherit our beliefs around money and everything else from the previous generation. So if we want the next generation, if we want our children to develop healthy relationships with money, we have to have it ourselves. We have to model it. And if we're not there now, we need to develop a healthy relationship with money so they can have it and they don't get stuck with all our hang-ups and anxieties as well. So that's another good reason for doing it, if not the best reason.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Today, my dear friend Dennis sharing with you what works in the world of creating a relationship with money. If you've got any question, go straight to Dennis' website. In fact, we'll provide a link below this recording so that you can connect with Dennis. And also, if you've got some very one-on-one question, you can send that to my team or even to myself. I will be able to help you. Listen, I want you to succeed, because when you succeed, the world truly becomes a better place, because you are going to contribute. You will be operating at the highest possible level, which will be beneficial to everybody. You're modeling what is possible. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I always want to leave you with these words. Live well, live with passion. Know that truly the best is yet to come. Dennis, once again, thanks for being here with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Yeukai.
With that, have a great day. Until next time, live well. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to Yeukai Business Show. We will be back to bring you more episodes with success stories and advice straight from the experts. Want more? Check out www.yukaibusinessshow.com. Get your free trial of our virtual assistant service today. Just visit www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com. Quote WOS18 or send us an email at support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com.